Okay, so we're decimated today. It's only two leaders here and one of our co-lecturers. So Emma, thank you for showing up. Um, it actually suits me well to have it shorter today. Um, First of all, I wanted to ask Lala. Lala, did you show to, or did you share with our colleagues in Indonesia the publication that I submitted for review and for publishing?
Yes, we did.
Okay. Has anyone read it? Do you know, Lala?
I think some of them, like Nana, Emma has read it. I have read it.
Okay.
Also, I read it too.
Okay? So was it difficult to read?
Um, I think in terms of concept, they told me that in terms of concept, it's still a bit hard to understand how emotions actually work. So that's what they say. Oh, but Nana is here. Panana, thank you for coming.
Siap, Pak Lala.
We are discussing the
Jepa!
homework.
Hi. How are you?
Good.
Good, thanks.
So
Yes.
good to see you all. Um, so the whole concept is difficult, and so Nana, it's very few of us here today, so that's okay. I will just look at one thing today. Okay, so we're not gonna make it really big and so on.
Yeah.
It's quite good. I still have to prepare the Asia call
Oh, wow.
keynote, which is in about, I don't know, 10
Um,
days. I don't know,
10
very short
days.
soon. Yeah.
Mm,
And I will be talking about our method and
great.
and things that are relevant to our workshop. Okay. So
Okay.
in some way, because it's so few of us here today, I don't have to sit here for 4 hours or something. So what will happen is I'll gain time to produce the PowerPoint for the keynote and I'll share with you. Hopefully it will help. Now,
Okay.
these workshops, I wanted to say to you, it's very important that the point of these workshops is not what sometimes it's expected. Someone invents a method and now I
Mm.
hand it to you and you become my followers.
Mm.
I don't want to do, it's not a religion. I'm not a prophet, right? Hard, hard. So, but I think that what my colleagues from Chirbonne have shown me through their doctoral thesis. So certainly we will discuss the concepts in my method, but the way which I use for these workshops is to teach you how I invented it.
Mm.
So I'm dragging you through my struggles so that you learn about the method and the struggles, and you learn about it as a tool which probably has a lot of shortcomings, but I am not aware of them, right?
Mm.
I mean, you love your children more than anyone else, right? Your kids have no shortcomings. So that's the same with the things one invents, right?
Mm.
Usually, you know. Okay. So I looked at your analysis, and that was good, um, that we've done that homework. Now, um, I might upload. I don't know how to do it. No, I do know how to do it. It's just that it's always difficult. So I will take Emma's text just for argument's sake. Okay. So just I
Okay.
have to, um, it's going to take me, I could share it. I guess I could share. Where is it? Where is our system? I probably could share the screen. If I use this system so often, and yet I can't remember a thing about it. So where is the share screen? Lala, do you know? Present share screen. Okay, share screen. But which bit? Which window? Where is Emma's analysis? I want entire screen, but not that one. Maybe that one. Emma. So what we had a long text, correct?
Yes, it is a
Yes.
very long text.
I noticed that many of you here have done these highlightings. Emma, can you take, before we look into the structure, can you take me through the highlights? Or just talk about it? Tell me anything about the divisions you created. Just talk us through it if you don't mind.
Yeah, I made the highlight because that's catch my eye on the text, so I can catch the idea from the words that I highlighted there. So that's gave me a idea about the analysis. For example, from the first part, that's the focus. I see that they left their house and psych up. So that's give me idea about the situations when they left their house.
Right. So they were psyched up. So basically in the story they were enthusiastic. But how did that sort of so you described how you think they feel, but the point of emotional analysis is kind of a little bit tricky because it takes you out of the traditional way of looking at the text and asks the question, how do you feel when you read that? Are you um sold out on the idea that they really felt? Which words made you feel that they felt enthusiastic? What convinced you?
Um, uh, I don't know. Maybe sorry.
Right. So that's the sort of discussion, you see. So I am not trying to get it right or wrong from you. I am now basically demonstrating that the difference between the discussion we have now and maybe the other types of teaching, reading that you might have witnessed before. So if you were teaching reading in your classes before you saw my face, so here we are just basically contrasting the discussion. So here we are asking ourselves, am I convinced to that? Is that I know that she is trying to say, well, we were psyched up and, we're leaving the house, we're psyched up, everybody will win. The question is, the author, when they also write, and this is something that is often lost in schools, often everywhere, until you actually do maybe history subjects or majors, and then you actually study texts differently. But every text is written for the audience, right? So even this text is written to convince someone else, right? It's written for the audience, for you. So it is manipulating you. It wants to sound believable, right? So it sends you messages, it acts on you. So you reading that they are, enthusiastic. Do you believe them? How do you feel about the whole idea of being psyched up about the bloody football game? Do you care? when you read it, what do you feel? Like when you read this beginning, we left the house, we were all psyched up because we were going to this football game. And you probably, I don't know about you, but the way I read it, I go, yeah, the world consists of many weird people. Some people will be psyched up to go to a football game. I'm not sure whether you've ever been to one, but it's like 20,000 people minimum on the stadium. You don't see the ball. You don't even see the people. All you can do is hear the screams.
Yeah,
That
the exact.
so I'm reading this thinking to myself, what do I feel? Yeah, I get it. I can't relate to it. But I understand, right? I understand that some people might feel sort of differently about it. So I'm sympathetic, right? So the emotion that this is evoking in me, so I'm sympathetic to it. Like if they were saying that they're gonna go and rob a bank and they feel enthusiastic, that would make me feel differently, right? But I'm sympathetic to the idea that someone is committed so much that they will actually go to the game itself rather than just watch it in the comfort of their home on television, right? So yeah, I'm sympathetic. So yeah, it doesn't just, I don't see any, I understand it. I feel sympathetic towards it. Now I'll show you where I got the word sympathetic from. I'm not sure that I can do it simply. So let me try to do it simply. Did I lose you guys? So let me show you where I got that sympathetic from, because honestly, it's very hard to come up with the word like this. And I don't want you to think that because I live in Australia, I've got all these words in my pocket. All I just have to do is to come up with them. For some reason, the thing is not, I don't know, it's not showing. How do I show this? All right, so what I might do is actually upload. So basically, I told you that I have this whole list of emotions somewhere, except that for some reason, when I want to share the screen, it's not. Oh, yeah, I've got it now. So I was looking. So these are the positive emotions on this. I will send it to you. And these are the negative. So I didn't think that this particular first paragraph, first sentence had negative emotions it was evoking anything negative in me. So I went to the positive ones. Where are they? Here. Open, loving, happy. So I thought open is kind of like, I felt understanding. I felt sympathetic, right? So I got that word sympathetic from the list. Again, I'm demonstrating how you can work with students. So you can have students going and reading through this harmonious. Miss, what does it mean harmonious? I don't know. Check it in the dictionary. Go to ChatGPT. It will translate it to you. So they will be sitting there and asking questions of ChatGPT. It will translate to them. ChatGPT translations are way better than Google Translate, so that you can read. So by the time you go through these emotions 300 times as you read text, it's a lot of vocabulary learned. So I got the sympathetic. So I'm just gonna stop sharing this one. You can see. So we'll go back to your text if I recognize it. Which one is it? How does your text look like? I'll never find it. I can't find it now. So that's a good thing, right? Sometimes we can see these things and sometimes we cannot. So I just want to say your text. So sorry for that delay. but I cannot go back for some reason. Okay, got it. So the characters show enthusiasm, but how does the selection of the words by the author, how does it make you feel? Right? Well, indifferent a little bit. Well, maybe not indifferent. I feel sympathetic. I understand some people are weird and want to go to a football game, right? This, I'm convinced that they do really want to. Um, so, why did you think that it was a problem when they got to the tram station?
Because of the weather, it's not good.
But just wait, stop. A little bit careful. When we were there at the train station destined for MCG, wrapped up in magpie scarves and beanies in 6-degree weather. Okay, so I but this next sentence, the tram was approaching more slowly than usual, and we were eager to get inside away from the cold. We found a window, sat down and sighed. And look at this, how the text interrupts. And then came a disappointment. So you can see how you can read all of this up to here pretty much on the same tone. So when I left the house, we were both psyched up. We were there at the tram stop destined wrapped up in magpie scarves. The tram was approaching more slowly than usual. We were eager to get inside away from the cold. We found the windows and sat down and sighed. Then, to our disappointment, the rain came. Can you see that? Did you see how the then interrupted the flow of the text? So I am not going to argue with you whether you found the what I call disturbance or problem in the right place, but I feel that at the word then, it's a total disruption because first she describes the context, right? We're psyched up, we're gonna go, we've got the beanies on, we're on our way to the tram, it's freezing, but we're happy, we're doing this, and the rain comes. Right? So for me, the interruption is exactly that. Then the rain comes. That's where I see the interruption. I think that the first 2 or 3 sentences is just still the focus, which is like giving you the background. We love the damn game. We're crazy. We're gonna go there despite that it's freezing. We're gonna go there despite of it being cold. It's not quite yet a disturbance, right? It's Melbourne. It's cold all the time. It's bloody Antarctica. So, right. So it's like, and literally the disturbance is clearly signaled. And then the mother died. And then the grandmother died. And then it rained. You can see how differently it is. I'm enjoying the summer, and there is the ant walking, carrying bloody thing. Rather than enjoying the weather with me, the ant is working. Like it's a total like right. So, however, so what's the advantage of knowing how to identify the problem? Well, it is extremely important. First of all, problem or disturbance is central in every text because every text is a response to a problem, right? It's a response to a problem. To reshape it, to shape it differently, or to solve it, right? So if you are my mother and there's a problem, I came home late, you say, where have you been? I'm gonna kill you. So now I see the problem And what I will do now is address it in such a way to reshape the problem. You, rather than thinking that I was with my boyfriend, I'm going to reshape it. I'm going to lie to you. So we reshape it. It's not necessarily that I'm late. It's just, like there was no tram. So let's change the problem. Oh, we have such a bad communication system or transport system in our city, right? So I'm talking to you to reshape the problem so that take it away from me and blame someone else. So, right, but every text has a problem. Now, obviously, when your students become authors and write novels, they will feel it because they some of those who actually have a talent. I respect them. I can't relate to it. I have no talent. But when it comes to academic writing, over and over again, I see that people cannot relate in their heads the idea that they are writing to address the problem. So they have to state it. So, so we're looking at the text, we're analyzing them, and we're learning how to have a discussion about the text differently. And obviously, today I'm dealing with you a little bit as if I was dealing with myself, not with students. With students, I would let go what you just did. I would have a discussion a little bit where I feel there is this. But with students, what I would have done is I would let it go. And I have 3 methods at least, if not 4, for checking the correctness of my analysis. So I would take you through the second stage and then through a third stage, and it would then come out, right? But today we're just sort of doing it. As I said to you, there's no right way to introduce this model. So that's my argument first, that I feel that that interruption actually is very well, surprisingly for me, it's very well indicated in this text with this, and then the rain came, right? It's like do 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 do, and then the rain came. I mean, like I wish I wrote so well. In fact, a lot of people write very well. I have noticed when I've been analyzing lots of texts. So let me now find this. I hope you can still see Emma's text. Okay. But somewhere here is the problem, right? We all agree somewhere here is the problem. So how we cut it, we can talk about it, and we can use different methods for testing ourselves. In due course, we will say, but so you can see they were enthusiastic and all of this, in love with the game, and they sat down, and rather than all going well, and it's even actually indicated, then to our disappointment, the rain came, right? And here's the question about the emotions. So how do you feel? You feel empathetic. First, you felt maybe sympathetic to them. There are weirdos that will go and watch a football game on the stadium as opposed to at home. So you felt sympathetic, understanding. There was nothing in the text that was sort of making you think differently. But here you go, like, you're not only sympathetic, but now they're gonna go in the rain. You feel like, oh my God, they must be what? There's this they must be really loyal to their club, really seeking sort of like camaraderie. I think I have a word for it. What is it called? Camaraderie, right? Camaraderie, which is like being in the group. Right? So it was so important to be in the group, to share the experience. So I feel that they must be really committed. I feel. I mean, I can relate to it. And now you can have a discussion with students. Can you relate to it? And they go, no. And you would ask them, for example, you could ask students, when did you do something in the weather that was not actually inviting, and any other person probably would have given up, and people can relate to it. And so you want to bring out these personal experiences so that people can reflect on feelings like empathy, feelings like relating to someone else's commitment. You just want to hear these words. Okay, the rain came, and I mean a lot of rain. Now, and I mean a lot of rain, and then you continue this being a problem. We sighed again, and the day was going to be long. Wouldn't it be a comment on the problem? Oh, well, that's gonna be a long day, right? It's almost like a comment on the problem rather than the problem itself. Don't you think, Emma?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so if this is the problem and then the rain came,
Mm,
then we sighed again, right? Ugh. So that's a comment. So that would be a dialogue.
yeah.
Okay, what would be this? We arrived at the MCG and joined the queue. We got inside and miserably scanned this scene for a place to sit. What would that be?
The resolutions.
Well, so it would be what happened next, right? So there was a focus, which is the background. Then we have a problem, which is, and then the rain came. Then we have a comment on the rain, which is, oh well, it's gonna be a long day. And then as a result, what did we do? Well, what we did was we arrived at the MCG, we joined the queue, we got inside, and then we looked for somewhere to sit. So it's like a development.
Development. All right.
But now we have a problem. Because if we have a development this high,
Mm,
what will happen to the rest of the text, right?
yeah.
And this is where I stumbled first time in my life when I worked with my method. I went the same, right? Which is like, if I'm to be true to myself, problem was on the just literally one like short sentence, then there was a comment on the problem, then there was development, resolution was on the second page. So what's in between? I'm thinking, oh my god, I thought I developed something nice. You see, I'm taking you through the pathway. So I show you what happened. I wonder whether I'll be able to show you that. So that's what I want to show. So it's not that simple. Well, it is simple, but it is not that simple, right? So this is the presentation I want to give. And so we learned last time. I'm not sure how you are seeing these things on your. You can expand your. You can when you on the screen you can hover your mouse on the bottom right, and there's a little square, and you can enlarge the screen so you can see better, right? So you take the mouse, you hover on the bottom right of the green frame, and a little square will show, and if you click on it, just like with PowerPoint, it will expand the window on the whole thing, so you can actually have a better quality of the picture. So So we learned that sort of sequence. Now, as we will go through our little discussions, not today anymore, but some other, you will see that sometimes people start with the development, sometimes people will start with the moral, sometimes people will start with the focus, sometimes with the disturbance. Authors play with stages of the text, however it suits them, and however they will feel it works best to communicate the purpose of the text. So, but this is a kind of like sequence we discussed last time. So these are the stages. Let's call it a canonical step. But what we found out that sometimes you can have, I don't know how to show it best. I'm not sure whether you can see it well. Can you see this well?
Yes.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, but we can't understand it, so I'll show you. I'm just trying to find a thing I can point at. Okay, we'll turn it around. So, do you see focus here and resolution here, and then the moral? So it's focus, disturbance, dialogue, development, and then again disturbance, dialogue, development, disturbance, dialogue, development, disturbance, dialogue, development, and somehow here as resolution and moral. So if you can see, the text begins with a sort of background, setting the background. We love football, we're gonna go and see the game. Oh my goodness, it's raining. Hate the rain, it's gonna be a long day. But we went there and looked for the seats. What happened next? Well, what happened next, as I remember from the text, was we sort of had an argument together a little bit about the seats, and a nasty man was sitting there. I don't remember. Then we spoke to the nasty man. Then he gave us a seat without any shelter. Then what happened next? Oh my goodness, it wasn't rain anymore, it hailed and something, right? So you can see that the text began here with the focus. We love the game, we're going to the stadium to watch it live. But then lots of things happened as you were engaged in this activity of going to the stadium to watch the game live. And after you overcome all these obstacles and had all these experiences, then resolution happened. We won, we were happy, and the moral, it was all worth it. So a text will have a single moral and a single resolution that responds to the disturbance, to this sort of disturbance, to focus disturbance, love, but it rained, right? So resolution is kind of a response is a response to the initial conditions. However, you do take into account all the other obstacles, but really resolution says, well, we did all of that despite all the adversities. We've overcome them, and it was worth it, because such is life. Sometimes what's the moral of the story? There's a moral there, and she actually states it, I think. So that's the thing, that not every text will have a straight sequence like this. And the reason why I gave you this homework was for you to see, and maybe you for you to reflect a little bit on what's happening in the text. My goal was not for you to comply with this particular sequence and think you've done the job and it's gonna be good. I feel that what I wanted to achieve was to invoke in you questions about the model. So as you were producing this analysis, I hope that somewhere inside of you, you had questions. I'm not really sure. I don't really understand it. I'm not really sure whether the key problem of the text was where I marked it, or maybe it was somewhere else. And yeah, so I've encountered similar problem in the beginning of my work with this model when I was teaching second year teachers, literacy teachers, undergraduate students. And first we analyzed the grasshopper fable. So that was simple. It's exactly what we see here as that sequence. But when we actually analyzed another text, which was a story of a kangaroo, mother kangaroo story. It's a cute story for children. And I'll show you what it is. So Mother Kangaroo was finding her little baby Joey. Joey is a child of the kangaroo mother. So Mother Kangaroo was finding her little baby Joey a real handful. Whenever she turned her back, he would go hopping to explore. She was afraid that one day she would lose him. And one day, when the mother and her Joey were playing on the plains, a big wombat came crawling towards them. And the wombat complained, I'm sick, I'm blind, I'm hungry. Right? So Mother Kangaroo says, oh, don't worry about it. Hang on to my tail and I'll take you to the water. And off they went. So the wombat was drinking. This should have been disturbance. So I did that long time ago. I was getting things wrong. So he drank the water. It was all good, and you thought there should be resolution, but it's not. The problem wasn't really of the story that the wombat was thirsty. So now the wombat is complaining that he's hungry, right? So first he's thirsty, then he was hungry, then he wanted something else. I can't remember what else he was complaining about. So continuously throughout the story, the wombat was creating problems, and the mother kangaroo was addressing the wombat's problems. Now, obviously, as you are analyzing the story, and I'm not going to pay attention to how I analyzed it, 10 years ago or 8 years ago, because I probably got it wrong. That's an old PowerPoint. But you need to remember what actually the story was about. The story was about that the mother kangaroo was worried about her baby Joey because he was a real handful. And then when the wombat came, she gave up on paying her or giving her whole attention to the baby. She was giving or sharing that attention with the wombat. So she gave up on her own peace in order to address the needs of another animal. And this is, do you see what I'm saying? So there was continuously a new problem. First problem was the wombat was thirsty. Then the next disturbance was the wombat was hungry. Then the next disturbance came. The wombat was being hunted by a hunter. So continuously, the mother kangaroo was solving these problems and giving up on herself and her own peace. But the resolution was there was a development in the last stage when, after all of this settled, Mother Kangaroo fell asleep, and the spirit came to her and rewarded her with a pouch. You know, kangaroos have a pouch, bag on the stomach. And that's how the mother kangaroo got her pouch. The spirit was rewarded the love that mother kangaroo shared between, not, with all animals, like here example of the wombat, rewarded her for it and gave her a pouch. So now the mother kangaroo can continue being loving towards other animals, but have her baby safe in her pouch, right? So I when first time I encountered such a complicated story, I was too a little bit thrown off and felt that instead of having this sort of straightforward structure, all of a sudden I had another problem and another problem. So what happened? I'll show you what I did actually, in order not to have a too long class today. So yeah, I'll show you two things. So instead of having this sequence, we ended up with having a few disturbances before we finally got to resolution and the moral, right? The Aboriginal story about the mother kangaroo doesn't actually have a moral explicitly stated. So I often always ask my students, so what's the moral of a story? And it's interesting how undergraduate students find it difficult to articulate the moral. Sometimes it would take us an hour before students draft for themselves a moral for the story, like things like, I don't know, love pays, or I don't know, it's something like this, it pays to love, or I don't know, something of that kind. So yeah. So I'll show you what I did myself, so that you can see what's possible and not necessarily I don't know whether it's I have to find the text. It will be called this homework, Anya 2. Okay, let's have a look. Now, you might be disappointed a little bit that it got complicated. And I appreciate it. However, when you write an academic paper, it doesn't sound like I will be exploring what is vocabulary. Right? You will have to then, once you say structure a problem around vocabulary, you have several issues that you will explore, right? In order to come up with some sort of conclusion. You cannot just look at a problem and you say, oh, vocabulary is this, therefore you must be doing this. You have to say vocabulary is this, and there are this context, there are these issues and another issue, right? So those issues are the disturbances. So you can see, if you write a text, which is an adult, a text produced by an adult, you usually will have several issues that you will need to address before you will come up with some sort of summary or resolution that you might actually propose as a way forward, right? So every text written for adults will not have just one. It will have a major problem, which you will signal right at the beginning, and then it will have sub problems or sub issues that you will need to address, which are part of it. So if you want to talk about, for example, describe your best girlfriend, right? So you say, well, I would like you to see my girlfriend So the problem you want to address, I want you to understand my friend in objective light. So that's your problem. And then you say, so as a friend, as a mother, as a colleague at work, as I don't know, some other role. So there are different roles, which is different perspectives through which you from which you will actually want to describe your best friend, right? So these are the different disturbances. Now we will look, how's my best friend performing as a wife, performing as a colleague, performing as my long-term friend. Right. So every text written for adult audience will have those sub problems. So in fact, a text is, you can think of a text as almost like a pyramid, and I'll show you how it looks like. Don't pay attention to this. I'll talk about it later on. First of all, I will save it so I don't lose it. Now I can remove that. So you can see here. Do you see those words here? You know those. Do you see the space I created between? So here the disturbance is close to the frame of the table. But here it's a little bit further away. And here it's even further away. And here it's even further away. So the reason why I made so much, created so much distance from the frame of the table is to show you how these developments or how the text has a pyramidal structure, or depends how you see the tree, but tree-like structure. So it does have a base, but then it's up and further up, and it's all, it thins away before you actually get the thing. So if you remember the text, so here I would say we had this first problem, which is, and then to our disappointment, the rain came. And I mean lots of rain. So they sighed and commented on the problem. Well, it's going to be a long day. And they got to the stadium. And what happened next? Well, they argued, right? Because they had to, where do you want to sit? I want to sit here. 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 I hate you. I hate you too. Let's forget about it. Let's move on. Right? So they had a bit of a discussion about what's the best place to, where's the best place to sit. However, right. So now, I don't know. It was me that had to ask whether all the seats were allocated. So it could be here. It could be here. It's not a clean cut. I wasn't sure where to put this. It was me to ask. No, actually, I was searching. So the reason why, they had, so why I see this place as the sentence as a problem is not necessarily because they argued, but they had to approach this man, and this man is kind of like a terribly looking man. So that's a comment on the man, right? So we argue where we will sit. Now it's my turn to talk to this monster. So it's a problem. I have to actually talk to the monster, and this is a comment. Well, he was a monster. He was a hefty and solid looking man with a stern expression molded on his face. Clearly, he didn't like us. Clearly, he doesn't like anybody. All right. And then, we ask where to sit. So that's what happened next. We asked him where to sit. He then, was sour and whatever. So we could argue a little bit in this section. I honestly would say we could argue and maybe allocate sentences maybe a little bit differently. But nonetheless, this is the second section, in my view. And the third section starts here. The game was about to start when large and heavy hailstones began to pound us, right? So, right. And then we have another one, and it poured again. And I don't know why these people, well, I know why this text had these brackets, original. Now, you may still, at this very moment, feel, how does it apply to my classroom? We're talking research, we're talking about, we've just overcome one problem. When we thought that all text had a single sequence and we could just clearly map them on the sequence and get rid of the problem, what we learned today, that text actually might consist of these stages, but these stages cannot be so easily mapped out on the text. We have to think a little bit, and sometimes we will have subsections, and those subsections will be punctuated or will begin with the disturbance, then the comment, and what happened as a result. Obviously, some text will may drop some stages. That's okay. Maybe they're not well constructed. Maybe it will not suit the author to have full disturbance, dialogue, and development, but it certainly will have a disturbance. May not have a comment on the problem. I don't know. So we're learning now that texts are living creatures. Because they are living, they are complex, while we have stages, the 6 stages, which are applicable to all texts. We have learned today that while they are applicable, all texts will have a core beginning, but then they will actually have their subsections, because it wasn't just all of a sudden raining. Then there were other problems like sorting out the seeds. Then there was more raining, and then it was even more raining. Now, when the text shows you, now think about it, when the text has this reoccurring theme of increasing the recurring theme of rain, and not just rain, but the rain that is becoming increasingly stronger. So it rained, then it rained even stronger, then it hailed, then, I don't know, devil came from the sky or something, like it's just getting harder and harder and harder. It's like almost like in a song. It's rhythmic. This disturbance with the comment about the rain, it is that aspect of this text that really communicates its purpose, right? It was written to show you not just the pleasure is worth the effort, but I think I got it here said a bit better. The presence of pleasure lies in it's like a moral, lies in overcoming hardships, fully immersing oneself in the experience, regardless of the obstacles encountered, right? So really, this text was to show the reader that sometimes you want to get somewhere and sometimes you have obstacles. And in order to make this point, each time in the structure of the text, other than maybe when she was arguing about the seeds, the disturbance was always about the rain. It was always about the rain, right? So it's interesting that the recurring theme of the rain was to communicate to our heads the message. Sometimes it's hard, but overcoming hardship makes the whole experience even more worthwhile, even more yeah, like memorable, worthwhile, memorable. So sometimes we just have to overcome experiences because pleasure is worth the effort. So, but you can see, so that I'm just gonna make the point once again, that recurring theme, that recurring thing being the same, was an artistic device that the author used to make us see the point of the story. The reason why the story was told, it is not a diary written by a girl for herself. It is like that fable about the grasshopper and the ant. It was written and used devices to tell us the point that pleasure is worth the effort, but overcoming hardships um, and fully immersing oneself in the experience. The essence of pleasure often lies in overcoming hardships, right? Overcoming hardships makes the pleasure actually even more memorable and worthwhile, maybe. So that was the point of the text. It's a literary text. It's not a thing, although it seems light, it seems like a girl wrote it sort of in her diary, but because of this systematicity of it, um, and this theme of the rain coming over and over and over again in the text, we can see, but it's not much different from the fable. It's a story with a moral, right? It's a story with a moral, and the moral is, um, overcoming obstacles makes the experience even more worthwhile. So I think that was good for today. I will send you my analysis. What I want to do next time I see your pretty faces, I'll show you something that I've done today. I'll show you one more thing, if you don't mind. Okay, before I show you, do you want to talk to me about it? Did you enjoy that fact that we can actually have the core, the beginning of the text, and then we move to the side with the next problem, then the comment on the problem, then what happened next, then the next problem, then the comment on the problem, then what happened next, and then we move towards the finale, which is disturbance, a comment, and then what happened, and then as a result, how do we see the whole thing? And as a result, the moral of a story. Isn't it just a neat thing? I'll show you what they do in I'll show you what they do in so keep that structure in mind, and I'll show you what genre theory teaches, okay? So which is the enemy.
Wow.
Well, we've got 2 doctoral theses that showed that even though the students were taught with SFL, when assessed by unbiased raters, we have results that show that their students, genre-based students, didn't progress at all. At all. It's not that they did worse than our students. They didn't progress at all. So it's just, I'm surprised myself. I mean, I don't like their method. Conceptually, I don't like it. But look at this, how we don't need to make the text larger, but I will show you what the genre-based, which is systemic functional linguistic, does. There is an I don't know, I think I did that, so don't worry about that. So basically they have a text like this. They have orientation, then they have record, and then they have reorientation, which is like 3 stages in the text only, right? So this is basically like introduction. Then you have the whole story, and then you have a conclusion. The point I'm asking, how do you guide students in writing the middle of the text? Right? It's a lot of text that doesn't have support. As you can see, we have here almost every sentence, or sometimes every half a sentence, right? Sometimes our stages are long, like this one is long, but this one is short, this one is short. Our students have help all the time. We're breaking the text into smaller bits so that they can see connections, and they also can see the flow of the text. Oh, this is just a key problem. And then we're looking how the situation develops, right? And then we're looking again how the situation develops so that we can create a resolution that is linking not just the elements which were before, but talking to here, right? To the very beginning in order to close the text. So it does develop from the smaller, from all the disturbances and resolution, and closes the text because it also in, relates to the first disturbance. So you can see that here it's a lot of support, and we can see how there's a key problem and the smaller problems which developed as a result, what happens, right? So you know that you have to signal an issue, you have to signal a comment, you have to tell, so what happened as a result, and then did you have another problem? Yes. Okay, so tell us more about the problem, tell us what happened as a result. Did you have another problem? You know what I'm saying? Whereas here you basically say to students, oh, write something in the beginning, then write a whole page somehow. And this is where things fall apart. And what's the relationship between the last paragraph and the first paragraph? Actually, my analysis shows that even the experts lose the connection between this and this. So that's in my paper. In my paper I show what the experts do. They connect this to this, almost as if the beginning never existed. Right? So they have actually having a ruler and running with the ruler and telling people how text. Anyway, my point really is here is that there's just not enough of pedagogic support. The things in bold, I think the authors put them, or whoever put them there, because they stress adverbs and adjectives in that method. I don't know why. I don't think they even know why. So our text is more broken down. The structure between all elements in text is clearly delineated, what follows from what. So the students are at each point supported. And I think that's the point of today's talk, right? Which is that we have that, I call it tree structure. I'm not even sure if it's pyramidal, basically, structure. You know, you just go from the core to the side until you go back to the core and you relate everything back to the top. So that's very simple because the elements are always the same. They don't change. It's just that you can see that there's a development of a story. So that's very important to actually remember. Now I spoke. Does anyone else want to say something?
Mm, Annie, I've got a problem with my teaching duration in my class. So if I'm teaching reading for 2 hours a week, then I plan to have a full analysis. Uh, can you predict how much time do you need to actually break down every single text from the core into the most single part of the text? because we only have 2 hours a week in class.
Well, you have to sit down and plan it. You have to
Mm,
time it. I mean, I do it all the time with my students, right? So,
yeah.
I mean, and it depends. I think that with the first text, you might stretch it a little bit to allow for discussions and so on. But I
Mm,
think later on you can, or differently. The first one you can actually run them through
mm,
fast so that they get a big picture,
yep.
and then you have to plan it, Lala. You have to plan it where you can do the shortcuts and where you can. But I'll show you what I will answer your question shortly. I'll just is this what I wanted to show? I've got too many PowerPoint points open, and God knows why. All right. Okay. So life is tough, right? So just I'm still relating now to the question posed by Lala. And so there is no one way of working with it. But okay. So would you agree with this? If you were to have an ideal learning environment, you would like to have opportunities for students to interact, correct?
Yep.
Opportunities for students to ask questions?
Yes.
Yep, yes, definitely.
Right. Would you like, as a student, would you like to have your personal tutor that is always available to you?
Right.
Someone who can help you answer questions, someone who will edit your texts,
Yes.
correct them,
Mm,
explain mistakes,
yes.
translate everything,
Yep.
provide cultural expertise,
Yeah, yeah.
someone who actually can write texts for you because at some level you can't write them.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
When you write the publication in English, you very quickly find out that you would like someone to write them for you because your vocabulary level may not actually be at the level where you actually should be. So you
Yeah.
would like someone to write it for you.
Mm,
And you also would like the tutor that analyzes texts for you, right? Wouldn't you want it? Yeah. Is such an environment plausible? Is it possible?
I guess so.
Emma, is it possible to have such an ideal environment today?
I don't think so.
Okay, so I'm hearing someone's background talking, someone's wife is talking, or something is happening. So I'll show you what I did, and it is not very, I mean, I've ordered that, but I'm not gonna take you there because it's gonna take 2 hours. Okay, not today. I just wanted to make a short point today, but I will show you, I will signal something to you for the next meeting. So that may actually help everybody. It's not wanting to share it. Okay, so I'm just gonna go maybe this way. Yeah. All right, my friends. If you want to work with ChatGPT, you have to know how to work with ChatGPT, right? Because if you are humble, if you do not want to disturb ChatGPT because you think it is asleep, you're not gonna get anywhere, right? It's a machine. I mean, obviously, me and Andrew Lyon are stupid, and we say thank you and hello to the machine, right? We do, because we're stupid, right? But I'll just show you what I did and why I did it. But I will not show you today how to work in the classroom with it, okay? But maybe I'll make some comments. All right, so this was our text, right? This was our text about that. We were both psyched up because the pies were to play with the dockers, right? So that's our text we were doing for homework, right?
Right.
So I asked ChatGPT to summarize it. Create a summary. I had a reason for it, but and I'm not saying you should start with a summary. I think you should start with the emotional analysis. But I had my other reasons for today. So anyway. So it did. And it produced this long summary. And I didn't like it because it's, the narrative recounts the experience of the narrator, blah, 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 blah. I don't like that. So I asked the ChatGPT now to summarize it in more abstract terms. Do you know what I meant? Do you know what Lala, don't answer, but Emma or Nana, do you know what I meant when I asked, can you now summarize this text, but now in more abstract terms? Do you know what it means? Abstract terms, it means, yeah, Nana?
Yeah, it may be so the text is still straightforward without any emotion things, without involving emotional what is it? Yeah, without any. It's kind of, it seems like without any feeling emotions in the text. So that's why you need to ask the ChatGPT
I
to
see.
be more
And
abstract.
this is when the old thinking, sorry, which you just represented, is hitting the new thinking. It's actually the opposite. It's the opposite. It's abstract means hit the values, hit the emotions, hit the values, remove the detail. I don't want to know that first they wanted to go and see the match, then they were dressing up for the match, then they arrived at the stadium. You see, these are just details. I don't want the details. I want emotions. I want the values. If I asked you what values were communicated in this text, you would be sitting here till tomorrow crying. Persistence, what else? Name 5. Maybe you would mention 1. We don't have that vocabulary. If you don't have a vocabulary of values, your self-awareness is low. Maybe you feel it, but if you cannot name it, how are you going to talk to your children? How are you going to talk to your students? Because they are little, they don't have a brain yet. No, you don't have a full brain until you're 25. So you need to teach children how to develop self-awareness and awareness of others. You need a text summarized in abstract terms, because abstract means hanging the whole text on something that really created the text. And what creates text is the values communicated. It's the emotions that matter. That's the thing. So let's have a look. So this long summary, well, turned into a single paragraph. We removed all the detail. We went to the stadium and there was a lot of people. The narrative encapsulates the experience of resilience. See, it starts instantly with a value. and with emotion. I'm feeling resilient, feeling engaged, right? Enduring passion in the face of adversity. If you get to the point yourselves, even as lecturers, that you can say it, not just understand it when it's written, but actually say it, use those words, your vocabulary gets better. And then when you write, you will use this high level vocabulary. So instead of saying, and these two girls were very brave because they survived the rain, now you will say, the girls showed resilience and passion in the face of adversity. The level of your writing goes higher because you are using values, higher level terminology. It centers around the protagonist's journey to support their beloved sports team, an endeavor marred by challenging weather conditions and logistical values. So this is the problem, right? So you see, even the ChatGPT puts problem as the second, right? So first is the um, well, I'm not sure whether it's a moral or whether it's a focus. I would have to look at it clearly, right? But then comes the problem, right? It's marred by challenging weather conditions and logistical values. So there was this obstacle here, right? So the story highlights themes of camaraderie, persistence, the quintessential sports fan experience, where physical discomfort and you see that discomfort, all emotions, right? Nuisances are overshadowed by the thrill of the game and team loyalty. Values, emotions, values, emotions. That's what makes the text summarized well summarized. So you get rid of the detail. We went, we hugged, we cried, and you hit the values and emotions to communicate the purpose of the text. So this a good summary communicates the purpose of the text in terms of values and emotions. So the text underscores the universal idea that the essence of pleasure often lies in overcoming hardship and fully immersing oneself in the experience, regardless of the obstacles encountered. All right. So much, right? So next thing I asked the ChatGPT, okay, can you create a roadmap of the story sequence? So it does. Preparation and departure journey. But let's have a look how they start. The narrators and Sue leave the house dressed up. So I will show you later on how to work with all these things, and these are the things that communicate to you as a reader that they were excited, right? They were dressed up, they were excited to go because they already dressed up and left and continued later on despite the weather. So the journey in 6-degree weather, then they confronted the adverse weather. You can read the comments, then arrival and so on. You can read the comments. They're very good. Now, I was testing ChatGPT and I said to it, the beginning of the text, Sue and I left house. I asked it, what emotion is this beginning of the text communicating, right? So I copied and pasted the beginning, the focus of the text, the initial focus. And I asked it, what emotion is this paragraph communicating? So it told me. As you can see how we're doing word analysis. The emotions are primarily those of excitement and anticipation, mixed with a hint of discomfort due to cold weather. And now we have the phrases, which is what Emma was talking about. Psyched up. Another one, eager. They were eager to go there. Enthusiasm, high spirits stemming from the anticipation. They mentioned about being wrapped up in magpie scarves, something I think Emma was talking about, and beanies. and so on. The closing action of finding a seat on the tram and sighing may indicate a momentary relief from the cold, as well as a brief pause in their excitement as they settle in for the journey. Now, this is tricky what I did now. So this is how you interact with ChatGPT. Okay, what you can squeeze out of it. I said, you said that the narrative is about this moral, that the persistence pays off, right? Can you create a roadmap, which is to create a sequence of the text demonstrating this moral? So I don't want the sequence of the text he did not here. I want to show me now, if this is the moral, then create a sequence of this text that talks directly to this moral. Well, right. So it doesn't look at this. Here, it started with preparation for departure. But when I ask about the moral, it starts with anticipatory excitement. See how it changes? When it created a sequence, neutral sequence, it started with a preparation and departure and journey, right? Whereas when I ask specifically about the sequence of the text to be created that talks to demonstrate the moral of the story. So it's anticipation, confronting the cold, battling. You see what I'm saying? These are the sort of actions of persistence, right? So they were first excited, they confronted the cold, then they battled, then they challenged, they had challenges at the venue, then they endured the surroundings, then they weather worsened, but they, endured that, enjoyed the game, celebrated, and then they longed for comfort. Conclusive reflection. So you can get a lot of that. Now, I will show you how I would work with ChatGPT, with those texts, with those summaries. But notice one thing. Students will love ChatGPT because they will think that it solves their problem. But in order to understand how it solved their problem, they have to read it. They have to talk about it. They have to link things. They have to copy and paste, right? All of that. So it's kind of like a bit cheating. They think they cheat, but it's us who cheats them. Because, yes, that ChatGPT does all of that, but what happens here, it does it for them, but really those words are new to students. These ways of thinking are new to students. So they learn abstract reasoning with ChatGPT generating it for them, right? So the advantage of ChatGPT is that it will do it for any text. So it's flexible, right? So whatever text you type in, it will do it for you. So it's flexible. So that's a good tool for us as teachers. It will do it. It works for us. Students think that they don't have to do the work, but they will, because to understand these concepts, to discuss these concepts, to utilize these concepts, right? But one of the things that ChatGPT does, they think that they are cheating, but in fact, what they are doing, they are now being confronted with a completely new level of vocabulary, higher level vocabulary, right? We're no longer talking about putting things on the table, getting things off the table, going to the table, like 4 verbs. And with 4 verbs, people speak English. This is just now in enhancing their level of not just thinking, but of expression. All right. So in every way, and it's highly interactive. It will do for you whatever. You can ask it question. If you don't understand, you can pick up something and say it now, all of this in Indonesian. It translates instantly to Indonesian, right? So you have it both ways. Now, for whatever reason, and Lala will understand, I asked ChatGPT, what kinds of contrasts is this text creating? Because um, I don't have time. I didn't have time in these classes to talk about contrast, but you know that something is white because somewhere there is a boundary, and you can see from here on it's no longer white, right? So the only reason you see color is because you see the boundary. Without the boundary, everything is the same, right? So um, boundaries are important because the boundaries help you. What's the word? Contrast. To contrast, this is no longer this; it's something else. So I wanted to see what kinds of contrast is this text creating. Well, it did come up with a few. So excitement versus discomfort, anticipation versus reality, and it explains it, right? So I've copied the whole thing. I can send it to you. You don't have to paste it because I've got it in the Word file. Enthusiasm versus environment, enthusiastics and whatever, internal satisfaction versus external hardship, right? You can relate it, right? It's all in there. Endurance versus relief. So they were, at it for so long, and then they went home and they could relax, I guess. I don't know. Community spirit versus individual discomfort. So, they sacrificed individual discomfort in order to share in the community spirit, right? So this comradeship, this being together, no matter whether it's hailing out there, sharing felt like delivering more spiritually to them than not participating in the experience. So they sacrificed. So they endured individual discomfort so that they could participate in that community spirit. So you have some contrasts here. I wanted to find out what do you think that argument was about. It gave me different things. There was something else I asked. Anyway, so you can actually do a lot of interactions and get a lot of things if you know what questions to ask, or not. If you don't know which questions to ask, you can still get a lot. One of the things that you're doing now when you interact with ChatGPT, and if your students interact with ChatGPT, they can ask the ChatGPT questions. So the students are learning to ask questions rather than waiting for your answers. They think they wait for answers from ChatGPT, but in fact, what they are learning is to ask questions. And it's not very easy. A lot of people have problems working with ChatGPT because they are not in the habit of asking questions. Certainly, if you wouldn't ask many of those questions that I have here, they are theoretically informed, right? By evidence from neuroscience. That's how I got these questions. But when we work with students and they have a computer in class or at home, we can actually create a context in classrooms where they do interact with ChatGPT and they do ask questions. So as the student is thinking they're getting answers from ChatGPT, what we know is that they learn to actually interact. They learn asking questions, asking questions, asking questions. It's such an important skill to have. And this is from different angles, so one roadmap, yes, but now a roadmap from the perspective of the purpose of the story and so on. So high level summary, low level summary, right? Abstract and just regular summary of the text, all of those things. So there's a lot of things that ChatGPT can readily do for us. It's very nimble, very flexible, and we can then use all these things, which I will discuss some other time with you in detail, but we can use all these capacities of ChatGPT to actually analyze text. Yeah. I did show you last time when I saw you, that I even asked ChatGPT, why does the story begin with in the field, right? Or one summer's day in the field. Yeah, and it tells you. So it's excellent. So it does a lot of interesting things. Um, Lala, you can actually ask, you can model sometimes maybe how questions can be asked. I think the main idea is to reflect with students on the shifts of emotions, how the on the text structure. Then yeah, I don't want to be too fast with my conclusions. But I think that what you really want to achieve from the text is for students to see which devices authors use to evoke in you a particular emotion. So even in which devices they use. So you can see when you have those values like resilience, for example, here, or you had here, like in this comparisons, you had individual discomfort. And you can ask students here which words in the text illustrate to you that they were feeling individual discomfort, right? And they will say it was hailing, it was raining, it was ongoingly, raining, or they can show you that the theme of raining was repeated several times throughout the text. And you can see how community spirit was related to that individual discomfort. What devices were used in the text to show that there is a connection between individual discomfort? So they will tell you, we dressed up with clothes of the magpies. We dressed up. We put their beanies on. Which is the spirit of the community, right? We were sitting together. The fact that someone was honking or blowing the trumpet right in your ear, it didn't disturb you too much because it was part of the whole scene, right? So individual discomfort, yes, but you were part of it. So the students use these um, as you assess. And so depending on which part you are of the reading for emotion, and I know that Lala knows all the different strategies. So as you say in the first part, which we discussed here, which is to identify the sequence. um, Once you identify the emotion that it's evoking in you, then you look at the text to which students refer and ask which devices. So yes, they were excited, but how did you feel? Well, indifferent is in fact. Were you convinced that they were enthusiastic? Yeah. You felt indifferent? Yeah. But and then you can check at the Google at different emotions. But yeah, I felt sympathetic because it was believable. I understand that some people can feel like, so I felt sympathetic. Um, how did you detect the emotion of excitement and so on? So as you detect your own, how the text manipulates you, what does it evoke in you? Then you feel sympathetic to what? To the enthusiasm. Where is this enthusiasm? How is it expressed? Right? So it is expressed like this and like this, like this. So you want to do this. So it is really about in this stage of that we discussed today, it's about identifying a concept and then looking at the devices used in the text to justify why you thought of this concept. So the point of the model, which has several techniques, really is for us. I mean, when you're now looking at this whole thing, right? Just after 1 hour of sitting today together, can you feel a little bit of clarity, not about the method, but almost like about text? Like a little bit clear how much is happening in text? Like the fact that you have this little ladder, sequential ladder in the text, it makes me, I, doesn't matter which text we're thinking about, there will be this ladder of relationships, the higher order, and then the different disturbances. Doesn't it make it a little bit more like, oh my God, I never thought about that?
Yeah, you're right.
Just that, like everybody is expecting from the theory of the text to be so complicated, and having so many angles that you have to be Einstein to understand it. No, if you're a linguist, you break down things to 5,000 different things. But if you have a pedagogic model, you really need a heuristic model, something like a little key, but in a simple way opens a lot. The last thing you want is to teach the grammar of the text, right? I mean, your students have so much to study. If you had another 5,000 pages to teach your students, go crazy. So the idea here is to engage students in reflective thinking about text. Have a discussion. What devices are they using? So you think that they were excited. All right, but how are you responding to this particular? Do you feel connected to this emotion, excitement? No, not with regard to um, not with regard to maybe a game, but I can think of being excited about some crazy thing, but different one. Girls getting together for coffee. Something that excites me more than going to a game. I played basketball, but I didn't like watching playing basketball because I wasn't playing, so it wasn't interesting. Um, all right, and the reason why we were looking at emotions, how emotions break the text down, is to get that pyramidal structure of the text. This is that sentence that comments about the problem. This is when I feel the problem, and then the rain came, it's a problem, right? And, we comment on it. It's going to be a long day. It's a comment on the problem. Now, to you today, after I spoke about it, it might seem obvious, but people find it difficult. We grab the text like in its unity, but we do not see that the sentence, it's going to be a long day, it's actually a comment on the problem, which is it's raining, right? But it's very important to make that connection with the student, because later on when they write, they will know to make a comment, give a perspective justifying the problem. So for example, I had this with my student now wrote something like, she's writing a paper on some author in neuroscience that was never actually addressed by educators. And yeah, so she says she will be doing this, explicating a little bit about his sciences, and then she makes a comment from what is it that makes it so important. And what she's saying, we always in education have these and these particular names, almost like the pillars of education, and never ever move beyond them, even though these people either have died out long time ago. But anyway, she's asking why do we have these pillars and we don't have someone else who was also important, but we just sort of seem to be putting boundaries. So I want to have a look. What is it? Why is this particular author, she means Jack Panksepp, why is he being ignored so consistently, even though he has changed neuroscience? He's changed the science of neuroscience, and in education, we're all deaf and blind to him. What is it? And yet we're quoting some people who have never done experimental studies, and worked 100 years ago. So it's a comment on the problem. So the problem is, the person is ignored, but now she says, my comment is, I want to know, how is that? Uh, what is it about these other pillars that overshadow this guy? And so that would be her sort of take on the science of Jung Pangsep. What is it that he has that was worth ignoring, being ignored? Obviously, she thinks it shouldn't be ignored. Anyway, so it's good to indicate the problem, but it's also important to make a little bit of a paragraph or something, a comment on the problem to tell us in terms of which kind of uh, issue, which perspective makes this problem really important to solve, right? So, and I've looked at publications by Asian scholars, and it's just not there. And a lot of so it's the paper becomes uninteresting. So low-level journals will publish it maybe, but it's getting nowhere. It's really not a skill. It's just writing. And I know, I mean, English is not my first language; it's my fifth language or something. And I know that when you write something in English, you are just happy you wrote something in English. But English speaking people understand it. And they read it and go like, where's the problem here? Why is this problem relevant? Where's your comment about on the problem, right? Well, you didn't say anything. What makes this problem relevant? So so today we learned that we have a base core of the beginning, and then there's this reiterated structure in order to now finish with the resolution that takes everything in perspective and responds to the initial problem that we pose right at the start of the text. And so the book closes, right? So we've got the focus and the resolution and moral here, everything in between. Once we finish with the pyramid, closes. So it's like the bookends, right? The focus and the first stage of the text here, the ending is here. They need to be related. So it's very important to be aware of this structure so that students can actually see how the bits and pieces that they write, how they refer to each other above and to the thing above, and how the conclusion has to actually relate to the first problem they pose.
Very interesting. Another question?
Yeah, it's related to emotions. Sometimes I'm questioning myself that when I try to analyze the text that you provided to me, and is it possible to have different judgment? Because I have my personal judgment in terms of analyzing the text. Emma also has different emotion when she analyzed the text. Is it possible that each individual has different judgment of emotions in analyzing the text?
Okay, so in the beginning, like at this stage, you can have whatever, but did you ask yourself questions? It's not the emotion of the author, because you never know what the author felt.
Yeah, yeah.
It's your emotion and which devices in the text were used to make you feel like this. So one of the devices could be, I feel supportive of the girl. So that's emotion. I feel supportive, sympathetic and supportive of the girls. I'm talking about the focus. I feel supportive and sympathetic to the girls, that they have a mission and that they have a passion. However, if you ask me personally, I don't care about football. I wouldn't do that, right? So, and I know that they felt passion, because these words in the focus stage indicated, like, They were wrapped up in the clothes of the team. They were, what was the word you were using? Psyched up for the game. They were eager. So these were the words used that made you believe that they had what ChatGPT talks about, anticipatory, right? Excitement. So yes, you could see it, but your emotion to it was supportive and sympathetic. So the text is communicating this, and your response, the way you read it, it's, I feel sympathetic, and then you look at that. What makes you sympathetic? Oh well, because I can see that they were um, excited and eager. So you need to ask yourself first, and it takes a bit of time because we get swayed by different traditions of education we've gone through. So it's a bit hard. I will show you later on if we still have time. Not today, but if you read my article, you will notice that I then, after I've done this analysis of a sequence, then I take you through aesthetic analysis. And the aesthetic analysis really tests whether the concepts, the values you got, whether you can actually find them while using the aesthetic analysis, right? So it's a test, and the final test would be here to actually do a summary based on your emotions. But we're just gonna play with it for another two meetings, I think, and then we will 2-3 meetings. So is it possible to get them different? Yeah, I guess so. But you first need to go through the tests to make sure, and that's what you do with students. You discuss the devices, what is in the text that made you feel that, right? And if a student can explain, and another student can explain, and another student can explain, then we kind of can, oh, okay, I can cope with yours, but I feel differently. But we can see, you have to be close to the text. I mean, you cannot say that the focus stage of this particular text made you feel enraged by the devices. Like, which devices were there in the text to make you feel enraged, right? You see what I'm saying? So you cannot be off the text. Um, and there could be cultural differences as well, so there could be cultural differences, but then you need to so that's how you learn also cultural differentiation. So you can say, in our context, in the context of my family, this could not happen, but in the context of, say, another person's family, that's okay. So I don't feel enraged because I understand the cultural differences. So that's in different texts. So that also, it is a very good aspect because you learn differentiation, right? So that's good.
Okay, Emma, question, Emma?
Thank you, Adia. Thank you.
No, Pak Lala, that's quite interesting, and I'm so excited to.
It's a journey. It's a journey. We will be learning step by step. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So you are flying to Vietnam in 10 days, right, Anya?
Yeah.
All right. So are we going to have a session next week before you fly, or?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm happy. Yes, absolutely.
All right. That will be great then.
Yeah, we do that because otherwise we'll run out of time
Yeah. All right. Right.
because there's always something.
Yeah. All right. I hope to include more people next week. I hope so. And we will send the YouTube link to my colleagues so they are more prepared to rejoin the
Okay,
talk.
and I'll send you, Lala, the documentation I prepared for today so people can read it a little bit.
All right, Anya.
And
So
also
thank you.
the things from ChatGPT, because I've got them copied
All
and
right.
That's
pasted.
great.
All right.
Right.
That's brilliant
Thank
way of
you.
asking.
All right. See you next week then.
Thank you, Anya, and
Thank you,
everyone.
Adia.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
very
Bye
much.
bye.
much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.